بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومواله. Inshallah, continuing with the lessons of Shama'il Tirmidhi. Today inshallah we will be going through the chapter باب ما جاء في صفة إزار رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. The chapter on the lungi, the lower garment of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Last week we went through the imamah, the turban of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Not the narration narrated in Jami' al-Tirmidhi or Shama'il al-Tirmidhi rather, but other narrations suggest that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wore imamah of three colors: white, black and greenish color, so yellowish color. So these are all the adab of wearing the imamah. There are other books written just specifically on the imamah itself. Hazrat Shaykh al-Hadith Maulana Fazlur Rahman, may Allah give him a long life, of South Africa, has written imamah, topi, little booklets on it. So inshallah we can refer to them for more detail inshallah. It was a noble habit of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to wear a lungi, waist wrap, sarong. There is a difference of opinion whether Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wore an izar or not, meaning wore a trousers or not. According to Allama Bayjuri, the research, it is more correct that he did not wear a trousers. Although he possessed one, it is also said that after he passed away, there was an izar in his belongings, the things he left behind. Ibn Qayyim rahmatullahi says that Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam purchased an izar and he must have purchased it to wear it, So everybody do agree, all the ulama, that he purchased the izar, trousers. Whether he wore it or not, there is no confirmation. Allama Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah says that if he purchased it, he would have purchased it to wear it. It has also been mentioned in many ahadith that Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wore an izar. Many Sahaba radiyallahu anhum wore an izar with the permission of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like how it is in Zadul Ma'ad. Sayyidina Abu Umama radiyallahu anhu says, I said to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that the Ahlul Kitab do not wear a lungi, the lower garment, which is not in the shape of the feet but just a cloth tied around, but they wear an izar, trousers. Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam replied, you must oppose the way of the non-believers. Wear an izar and a lungi too. Wear both. Like how last Saturday, Ashura, the Prophet of Allah's teaching, we learned, fast one day extra, a day before or a day after. So don't try to be exactly the same with them. Sayyidina Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu says regarding a long hadith conversation, that he asked Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, do you wear an izar? Do you wear a trousers? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam replied, I do. I have been commanded to cover my body. No other thing covers the body more than this. The muhaddithin state that this hadith is weak. Nailul Awtar. It is Nailul Awtar. Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mostly wore a lungi, waist wrap, and a burda, top sheet, body wrap. Lungi is waist wrap, burda is body wrap. The sheet of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was 4 dhira, cubits, hands long, and 2.5 dhira wide. According to one saying, it is said that it was 6 dhira long and 3 dhira and one palm span wide. It is written that the lungi of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was 4 dhira and one palm span long and 2 dhira wide. The author has written 4 ahadith in this chapter. Moving on to the hadith. حدثنا أحمد بن منيع حدثنا إسماعيل بن إبراهيم حدثنا أيوب عن حميد بن هلال عن أبي بردة عن أبيه قال أخرجت إلينا عائشة رضي الله عنها كساء ملبدا أو إزارا غليظا فقالت قبض روح رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في هذين. Allahu Akbar. Abu Burda ibn Musa al-Ash'ari radiyallahu anhu reports, Aisha radiyallahu anha showed us a patched sheet, patched with patches on, and a thick, coarse lungi. Then said, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, he was wearing these clothes. Subhanallah. It was a habit of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to wear simple clothing right up to the time of his demise, even though the standard of living had generally improved. After the conquest of Khaybar, the economic situation of the Muslims became better. After the conquest of Makkah, the kings of other countries also began sending presents, etc. Despite this, Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not change his standard of living. Subhanallah, somebody said it so beautifully. When Allah showers His blessing upon you, don't change your standard of living, don't upgrade your standard of living, rather upgrade your standard of giving. Let me repeat it. When Allah's blessings are being showered upon you, don't upgrade your standard of living, rather upgrade the standard of giving. Subhanallah. So despite all these royalties and all these presents coming to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he did not change his standard of living. He lived simple, and whatever was sent to him was distributed to others. A few examples have been mentioned in the book Stories of Sahaba radiyallahu anhum, which is part of Fadailul A'mal in the beginning. Imam Nawawi rahmatullahi says that this hadith and other similar ones point to the fact that Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam loved the hereafter and stayed away from the luxuries of this world. Thick and coarse clothes makes one feel humble and simple, whilst the wearing of fine clothing makes one feel great and proud. My Buzurug Hazrat Maulana Gangohi, Maulana Hakim Jamiluddin Naginwi Ad-Dahlawi related an incident of Hazrat Gangohi rahmatullahi alayhi, that when he went to Hajj, and whilst performing tawaf, a blind buzurug, a blind pious person, was sitting on the outer side of the mataf. Whenever Hazrat Gangohi rahmatullahi passed by him, he said softly, "Wear the clothing of the pious." When Maulana completed the tawaf and went to the side where the blind person was sitting, pious person, he heard him say, "Khashin, khashin," coarse, by which it was meant that the clothing of the pious was made of coarse material. Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam generally wore coarse clothing. There is also evidence that he sometimes wore clothing made of fine material due to some religious benefit, if it was available. He normally did not wear clothing made of fine cloth. Another thing we remember, another thing we can point out from this hadith is Aisha radiallahu anha taken out the clothing of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam to keep the clothing of the pious after they leave this world, so it can become a lesson, moral so others can understand what type of clothing they used to wear and emulate. It is nothing wrong. It is something which Aisha radiallahu anha did, as long as things don't go out of hand. Next hadith. حدثنا محمود بن غيلان حدثنا أبو داود عن شعبة عن أشعث بن سليم قال سمعت عمتي تحدث عن عمها فقال بينما أنا أمشي في المدينة إذا إنسان خلفي يقول ارفع إزارك فإنه أتقى وأبقى فالتفت فإذا هو رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فقلت يا رسول الله إنما هي بغدة ملحاء فقال أما لك في أسوة فنظرت فإذا إزاره إلى نصف ساقيه. Subhanallah. What an example, what a lesson for us. Ubayd ibn Khalid radiallahu anhu says, I was once going to Medina Munawwara. In Medina Munawwara he was going through. I heard a person from behind me say, wear the lungi higher because it avoids physical and spiritual najasa, impurities. The lungi will remain cleaner and will not become dirty by being dragged on the ground. When I turned to see who was talking, I saw that it was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I said, "Oh Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this is simply a lungi. It is just a cloth coming from the top to bottom, waist up. How can one become proud and it is necessary to look after it, keep it clean?" Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam replied, "If you see no benefit in it, your following me has not ceased." Meaning, is there not? Am I not a role model for you? Whilst Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was telling me this, I saw that his lungi reached till half his shin. Subhanallah, half his shin. We have been warned strictly in the ahadith on the wearing of waist wrap or trousers below the ankles. All those parts that hang over the ankles will be burnt in the fire. Abdul Rahman says, I asked Abu Sa'id Khudri radiallahu anhu regarding the lungi, the waist wrap. He replied, "You have a very meaningful question. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, the waist wrap of a Muslim should reach till his middle of the shin, and there is no harm in it if it reaches above the ankles. But those portions that hang over the ankles will burn in the fire of Jahannam." Allah. The one that lets his clothes flow over his ankles in pride, Allah Ta'ala, Almighty Allah, will not look at him on the day of Qiyamah. This is in Abu Dawud. Warnings like these have been given in other ahadith as well. One should take strict care of this. In our times it has become a fashion to let the clothes hang over the ankles, so much so that we treat it to be something petty and pay no heed to the warning of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. To Allah is our complaint. This is regarding the males, that the male should keep the waist wrap or anything coming from the top above the ankles. If it is coming from the bottom like socks or something, then it is fine. But something coming from the top should be above the ankles. This is for the males. The females, it is below the ankles. The more they are covered, the better. But today, unfortunately, the teachings that we are being told, the fashion by the non-Islamic culture is telling us, for male above, beneath the ankle, and for female, never mind above the ankle, it has become like above the knee. What opposite, what teaching completely opposite to the teaching of Sharia. We are being told that it is fashion. For a Muslim, Fashion is only the teaching of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's only the teaching of Islam. It's only the teaching of Sharia. That is the only thing that will take a person to Jannah. Nothing else. All other ways will take a person to Jahannam. May Allah forgive. May Allah save one and all. So it's something to take seriously. Many people, they don't understand. For namaz, for salah, when they stand up for salah, then immediately they roll their trousers. So they know it is wrong. That is why they don't want to do the wrong thing in salah. So if we know that we don't want to do the wrong thing in salah and we want to roll it up, why are we doing the wrong thing out of salah? Why are we doing it? That is the point I am trying to make. That we know that it is wrong. That is why we don't let it happen in salah. We try to avoid it. Why are we displeasing Allah? Why are we, disobeying Allah out of salah? May Allah grant us understanding. Moving on to the next hadith. حدثنا سويد بن نصر حدثنا عبد الله بن مبارك عن موسى بن عبيدة عن أياس بن سلمة بن أكوى عن أبيه قال كان عثمان بن عفان يأتزر إلى أنصاف ساقيه وقال هكذا كانت إزرة صاحبي يعني النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. صاحبي يعني النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Amazing how they used to follow Rasul صلى الله عليه وسلم. Salama ibn Akwa radiyallahu anhu says Uthman radiyallahu an wore his waist up till the middle of his shin and said, this is how my master Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wore his waist up, his lungi. May Allah grant us understanding. The lungi of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the waist up of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The final hadith of this chapter. حدثنا قتيبة بن سعيد حدثنا أبو الأحوص عن أبي إسحاق عن مسلم بن نذير عن حذيفة بن يمان قال أخذ رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بعضلة ساقي أو ساقه فقال هذا موضع الإزار فإن أبيت فأسفل فإن أبيت فلا حق للإزار في الكعبين. Complete and clear instructions, indications. Hudayfa ibn Yaman radiyallahu anhu reports that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam caught the shin of my legs or of his own legs, whichever, his own shin or the shin of Hudayfa ibn Yaman radiyallahu anhu, and said, this is where the waist rub should reach, and if not, then a little further down, and if not, then the waist rub has no right on the ankles. For this reason, the lungi, the waist rub, should not reach over the ankles. It is haram to cover the ankles when wearing a waist rub or in trousers, izar. The ulama say that only those persons are exempted who have a boil or a sore on the ankle which will cause flies, etc. to sit on it. For medical reasons, they need to cover it as a bandage or something. Only then shall it be permissible to cover it with a lungi, with a waist wrap or izar, etc., with the object of safeguarding it till it heals. So this is regarding the waist wrap. So the Prophet of Allah, anything coming from the top, borada, is known as the body wrap, and anything coming from the bottom, lungi, which is known as izar, which is known as the waist wrap. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he had patches on his clothing, and even Umar radiallahu anhu, when he went to conquer Baytul Maqdis, Jerusalem, Palestine, Masjid al-Aqsa, then he had 17 patches on his clothes. Even Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu said, all the other Muslims and Abu Ubaidah including, they said that, at least today you should have worn some, we would say, some decent clothing. People will look down on us. She said, نَحْنُ قَوْمٌ, we are such a nation, أَعَزَّنَ اللَّهُ بِالْإِسْلَامِ, Allah has given us honor through Islam. فَمَهْمَا نَطْلُبُ الْعِزَّةِ بِغَيْرِ مَا أَعَزَّنَ اللَّهُ أَذَلَّنَ اللَّهُ. Whenever we want to seek honor with something besides that which Allah has already honored us with, Allah will disgrace us. Allah has given us Islam. Whatever clothes we wear, doesn't make a difference. We follow the teaching of Islam. That makes a huge difference. That is what should be the fashion. Umar radiallahu anhu had 17 patches on his clothes, yet he was ruling half of the world. Subhanallah. How he filled the world with justice. How he, even people, other kings used to feel fearful when they heard his name. This was a person whose life was so simple. Moving on to the next chapter, باب ما جاء في مشية رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Chapter regarding the walk of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The walk of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has been described in the chapter on the noble features of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In this chapter it has been described specifically. The author writes 3 ahadith narrations in this chapter. Specifically again, like somebody says, it's easy to talk the talk, but it's difficult to walk the walk. May Allah grant us the ability to walk the walk, so we can walk with him to Jannah inshallah. حدثنا قتيبة بن سعيد حدثنا ابن لهيعة عن أبي يونس عن أبي هريرة قال ما رأيت شيئا أحسن من رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كأن الشمس تجري في وجهه وما رأيت أحدا أسرع في مشيته من رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كأنما الأرض تطوى له إنا لنجهد أنفسنا وإنه لغير مكترث. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu says, I did not see anyone more handsome than Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Subhanallah. It was as if the brightness of the sun had shone from his blessed face. Subhanallah. What it would have been. I did not see anyone walk faster than him, as if the earth was folding up for him. A few moments ago he would be here and then there. We found it difficult to keep pace when we walked with him, and he walked at his normal pace. It wasn't as if he was running or walking fast, he was just walking on his normal pace. That was a miracle. That means we could only with effort keep up with his normal pace of walking. Miracle of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. حدثنا علي بن حجر وغير واحد قالوا أنبأنا عيسى بن يونس عن عمر بن عبد الله مولى غفرة قال أخبرني إبراهيم بن محمد من ولد علي بن أبي طالب رضي الله عنه قال كان علي إذا وصف النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إذا مشى تقلع كأنما ينحط من صبب. Ibrahim ibn Muhammad says, when Ali radiallahu anhu described Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to say, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam walked, he lifted his leg with vigor. He did not drag his feet on the ground like females do. When he walked, because of the speed and force of the leg, it seemed as if he was descending from a high place. This has been discussed in the chapter on the noble features of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The final hadith of this chapter. حدثنا سفيان بن وكيع قال حدثنا أبي عن المسعودي عن حدثنا أبي عن المسعودي عن عثمان بن مسلم بن هرمز عن نافع بن جبير عن مطعم بن علي عن مطعم عن علي بن أبي طالب رضي الله عنه قال كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا مشى تكفؤا كأنما ينحط من صبب. Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu says, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam walked, he bent slightly forward as if he was descending from a high place. This has also been explained in the previous hadith, in the chapter of the noble features of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, what is the teaching of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Or how was the walk of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? He used to walk as if he was coming down from a high place. So we should try to emulate this walk of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Try to exert, practice, learn from the elders. How did my beloved used to walk? So I can walk like him. How did he used to talk? I can talk like him. What did he used to eat? I can eat like him. This is the whole purpose of these lessons. May Allah make that a reality. Babu ma ja'a fi taqannu'i Rasulillah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Chapter on the qina' of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What is qina'? Qina' is the cloth which Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wore on his blessed head under the turban. This was to prevent the turban from becoming oily. The ulama have also mentioned some other benefits. Only one hadith is mentioned in this chapter. حدثنا يوسف بن عيسى حدثنا وكيع حدثنا ربيع بن صبيح. Again, I mentioned that earlier on. And Yazid ibn Aban عن أنس بن مالك رضي الله عنه قال كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يكثر القناع كأن ثوبه ثوب زيات. Anas ibn Malik رضي الله عنه says Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم often wore a cloth on his blessed head. This cloth, because of its greasiness, looked as if it had been oiled. That means that the cloth was oily due to the excessive use of oil. Besides all this, it is peculiarity of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that this cloth did not become dirty, nor did any lice live in the cloth of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, any insects or anything. It was very clean due to his miracle. Nor could an insect suck his Mubarak blood. Allama Munawi rahmatullahi has related from Qari, Allama Ghazi rahmatullahi, a fly never sat on the clothing of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No fly ever sat on the clothing of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What a miracle! What a body! What a cloth it must have been! May Allah grant us the understanding. So inshallah we will leave it till there. May Allah first of all give me the ability to follow that being on whom a fly didn't even sit. That personality, what a role model. Do we need anybody else? If we've got such a role model, what more do we need? What more do we need? If we have him, what don't we have? And if we don't have him, what do we have? May Allah grant all of us understanding. Inshallah, going through the khulasa, his waist wrap, izar. It is what covers the lower part of the body, as opposed to the cloak which is for the upper part. He had a patched cloak and thick waist wrap which he was wearing when he passed away. According to Aisha radiallahu anha, his lower garment reached the middle of his calves. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "This is more clean and more rewarding." He forbade anyone from lengthening it to the bottom or beyond the ankles. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Beware of hanging the lower garment, because it is from pride, and Allah does not like pride." This is the hadith of Abu Dawood. The manner of walking of Rasulullah ﷺ, when he walked, it was as if the earth was rolled up for him. A companion says that they would tire themselves, i.e. put themselves in difficulty due to his exertive quick pace, but he sallallahu alaihi wasallam would not be fatigued. When he walked, he leaned and lifted his feet with vigor, as if he was descending to lower ground. You know, a person going from the top of the hill to the bottom. Qina, his sallallahu alaihi wasallam's head covering. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam used a lot of oil and feared that it would stain his turban. So he would place a cloth between his head and his turban. And that turban we know, that cloth we know, was as if it was an oily cloth. So was ayyatin. May Allah give all of us the ability to follow the lifestyle of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because that is the best lifestyle. There cannot be anything better in this world. Allah loves that lifestyle, and if we want Allah to love our living, let us live the living the life of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May Allah give one and all the opportunity, the ability. May Allah make it easy for one and all. Ameen wa sallallahu wa sallam ala Rasulina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.